I now give the floor to the representative of the Sovereign Order of Malta, to be followed by the representative of civil society.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, as we all know, whenever conflict erupts, sexual violence, often involving boys and girls, becomes much more prevalent. This consensus we have come to accept becomes especially concerning considering the 27 conflicts continuing to occur across the world today. The threats of sexual violence that violate humanitarian, international and domestic laws require a well-structured and collective effort to solve. The urgency remains, and we must not lose sight of each individual obstacle it is we face in tackling and preventing genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity. The number of countries experiencing violent conflict is the highest it has been in the last 30 years. As UNICEF suggests, more than 30 million children have been displaced by conflict, enslaved, trafficked, exploited and abused. Now, whilst of course it is widely accepted that sexual violence is disproportionately aimed at females, along the theme of not leaving anyone behind, the Sovereign Order of Malta strongly encourages the active recognition of all male victims that are also affected, and thus preventative and protectionary measures must be implemented. The use of rape, sexual violence and exploitation as a weapon of war against boys and young men has been documented in countless countries in recent years. It is near impossible to find an absolute statistic for the number of people sexually assaulted, especially considering the underlying taboo and stigma that is often associated with being a male victim. It is not uncommon for males that do come forward and seek help to then face ostracism and social exclusion instead of support, specifically because of cultural norms and a macho culture. With these stigmas and the fear of social exclusion and prosecution, it remains unsurprising that many male victims stay silent. As with the plight of women and girls, acts of sexual victimization and aggression against boys and men often end up with blame being assigned to the victim, not the aggressor. As today's meeting aims to address, we must continue to work towards the prevention of structural discrimination in the hope that victims of any kind feel safe enough to come forward and receive the support and protection they need to live their lives. Rather distressingly, our current geopolitical landscape proves that insufficient steps are being made to mitigate these abhorrent crimes against girls, boys and adults. Due to rising food and energy prices and the intensity of conflicts and inequalities, such a meeting as this is especially important. We are witnessing a worrying shift in attention towards our own domestic agenda, which is now coming at the expense of the victims that continue to hold out hope for an effective and collective response to these horrendous acts. Every country in the world is affected by sexual exploitation and violence, and as a result, children are forced to drop out of school, risk their lives, and are deprived of what every child deserves, a future. As Pope Francis states, violence cannot be overcome by violence. Violence is only overcome by peace. With future generations already facing uncertainty in their lives, mainly from our misuse of the Earth's resources, then surely the least we can do is to respond swiftly in protecting the next generation in the fight against indiscriminate acts of genocide, ethnic cleansing, and war crimes such as sexual violence. Thank you, Madam President.